Yeah, you need to re-glue this.
Which one?
That one.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, kiddo. You've earned yourself an extra 5 minutes at bedtime. Hey makeup friends, today I'm going to be talking to you all about the Meet Me in the Underworld palette from Lois Cosmetics. Let's get into this. As always, I want to start off by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. Obviously, the eye makeup we're going to be talking about throughout this video, but really quickly I want to talk about the lipstick as well. It is from Cheekbone Beauty, and it's in the shade Nuna. It's one of their Sustain Bullet lipsticks. I just got my order of Cheekbone products in today. I picked up 3 new lip products as well as a custom face palette, but I'm going to do a dedicated Cheekbone Beauty video at some point, hopefully soon. Life is still a little chaotic right now, so I can't make any grand promises as to when that's going to come out, but it's on my list nonetheless. All right, now let's dive into this eyeshadow palette. So here is what the outer packaging looks like on the palette, and I just think that the artwork is so unique and different, and it really stands out from a lot of the palettes in my collection. And then you open it up, and of course, it's what's inside that counts. And here we have this beautiful selection of shades. And what I really like about this color story is you can really wear it any time of the year. While it sort of leans on this grungier side of things, there's still enough bright little pops of color in there that I don't feel you can't pull it off in the spring and summer. I love that the shades are all very complementary to each other, but that this is a very versatile color story in that you have the berry tones, you've got the olives, there's a nice black to deepen anything up, and I just think it's a good mix of mattes and shimmers, and overall, this is a palette that inspires me. If you saw my recent review of the Emerald palette from BH Cosmetics, I was saying that it just isn't fleshed out enough. I like the overall idea of the color story in that palette, but it just was missing some certain shades to make it easier to work with for me. This is the fleshed out version of that palette, and then some. Now, before we get too far into the video, I do want to say that this just arrived yesterday, and this is the first time that I've played with it. So I haven't used every shade, I haven't tested out the longevity of the shimmers on my eyes or anything of that sort yet. This is really just initial review of the shades that I've used, and I'm also going to include some swatches in this video so you can see how they look, at least on a finger application. But before we get into shades and application and my thoughts so far on this palette, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on it. So Lois Cosmetics is based out of the UK, and all the pricing on the website was in British pounds, but translated to Canadian dollars, the palette retails for about $50. The eyelashes that I'm wearing are also from Lois Cosmetics, and these retail for about $13.50 Canadian. The style that I'm wearing is called Confidence. I placed my order for these items on April 28th, and they arrived on May 6th, so really not a bad turnaround time from my perspective. It often takes things very long to get to Canada for whatever reason, but I didn't experience any delays here. I also found that their website was very easy to navigate as well. I had already created an account, so checking out was as streamlined as possible, and I sat there at lunchtime and just hit refresh until it was available, and I managed to snag one. So I'm very happy about that, but they are going to be restocking later on this month, I believe. I would suggest signing up for notifications through their website or following Lois Cosmetics on social media so that you can be advised as to when they are going to restock. Okay, now that we have talked about that, let's do some swatches. So normally I do them in advance and then I take a little video of them and put them up, but I suggest we do them live this time as best we can. There's 16 of them. I've only got so much real estate on my arm, but let's do this and you and I can see them together for the first time because I have not swatched these, and some of these shades I've not even like dipped my finger in at all, so we're going to get genuine reactions on the ones that I haven't touched yet. But before we do swatches, Aspen just saved me because this lash was coming off and I've re-glued it. And also, I just wanted to let you know that the palette and the lashes are both vegan and cruelty-free, so that's pretty awesome. All right, let's get into swatches. All right, so Just gonna start here. Ooh, she's pretty. We're gonna try to fit all 16 on my arm. We're gonna try to make sure that my arm stays in focus. So this is the top row of the palette. All right, and now going in with the second row of the palette. Some of these I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm just not gonna say the shade names. I don't think it really matters anyways. These are fairly identifiable if you look at the palette itself. There we go. Look at that gold, isn't that beautiful? Oh my goodness. Also, I'm not entirely convinced I can fit 8 more shades in this little area, but we'll see what we can do. We might have to go onto the hand. All right, and now we're going into the third row. These ones are all mattes from here on out. All right, and now we're going in with the last row. And I do want to say I didn't put any primer on my arm, and I'm just running my finger around in the pan, and as you can see, just dragging it down twice just to smooth the powder out a little bit. So there is the collection of shades. I think they're beautiful. I love this palette. It screams autumn to me, but again, because there are some more bright options in here, I think you can really pull this off in the spring as well. Overall, it's just a really complimentary color story. I love this color story. All right, let's talk about this palette. So, as I said before, I've only applied it to my eyes once. Some of those swatches were the first time I've seen these shades swatched out, so take this for what it is. This is just an initial impression based on the formula of the shades that I have tried. So I just want to be clear on that because I just don't want the impression to come out that I've been playing with this for days and I know all the ins and outs of the palette and all of that. I just want to be very upfront and transparent with you. This is just a limited first impression. Okay, with that out of the way though, I feel very confident in saying these shadows perform beautifully. The shades that I have on my eyes, I have this shade here called Hades. I have Nymph. I have a tiny bit of Myth, although you really can't see it. I have a little bit of Underworld. I have this shade here called Snakebite. I have Orpheus. I have Enchanted, and I have Forest. Those are all on my lids, and then my inner corner is the I Need a Glow highlighter from Natasha Denona. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about my experience with those shadows, and while I'm doing that, I will bring up some clips of me applying the eyeshadow. So the first shade that I used was that really deep purpley plum called Hades, and I did not have any issues with it at all. It's not one of those deep shades that's really stubborn. It doesn't just stick in place and doesn't want to blend. I had no issues in blending it out, but nor did I have any issues in building it up, particularly along the outer portion of my lid here. I just went in with a smaller brush and really just packed it into place, but again, it blended out no problem. There wasn't really much in the way of kick up in the pan. There was some, but this isn't an overly powdery formula. And also when I pick it up with the brush and tap off the excess, some of it still sticks to the bristles, which I enjoy. I've had shadows in the past where you pick it up in the pan and then you go tap, 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 and all of it falls off and there's nothing left on the brush, and it's very frustrating. That is not the case here. There's no stiffness to any of these shadows. There's no dryness. Even in the finger swatches, I didn't feel any different textures from one shade to the next. Even the shimmers are very, very smooth. There's no gritty bits in them at all, and there's no dryness in any of these shadows. The black shade Underworld, I have a little bit of it on just on the outer portion of my lower lash line, so I really can't speak to how pigmented it really is, but it did apply nicely and it blended out nicely, and that's what I hope for with the black shadows. Sometimes they kind of just stick, and it's almost like you can see exactly where the brush hit the skin because they just never really budge from there. That wasn't the case here. I had no issues just running it along like the outer half of my lower lash line, and then I smudged it out with another shadow, and I'm happy with the way that it looks. The Shimmer Shadows, I did go in and initially apply them without any setting spray, and then with some of the lighter ones like the light green on the inner portion called Enchanted, That one I did boost up with a little bit of setting spray just to help intensify it a bit. It wasn't disappointing without the setting spray, but I do like a more intensely shimmery shadow, and having the setting spray on it really did help play it up a bit. So if you don't like super foiled shadows, you're going to like how these apply dry, but they can be intensified, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. Neither the shimmers nor the mattes produced any real fallout on my cheeks. I did notice a few specks of it when I was editing a photo, but I was really zoomed into it and I hadn't noticed it in the mirror. It wasn't anything that I could feel on my cheeks as it was landing there. Sometimes when I'm applying shadows, I can feel the transfer falling down. I didn't experience any of that with this. So overall, I just find that these are very easy shadows to work with, and I'm really excited to continue using this palette. Like I said, love this color story. I just think that there's so many different pairings, so many different ways to approach this. And honestly, it's not every palette that I look at where I can just see a bunch of different looks coming together. But with this one, I can. And I think it just has to do with how complementary the tones are and honestly how they're laid out in the palette as well. I like that things are sort of grouped together by color, and that just makes it easier for me to access this palette. That might just be very personal to my own like pseudo OCD, but there it is. I appreciate that. So I just find that looking at this, I can see a lot of different ways to go with it, and I'm really excited to continue playing with it. As well, while there are colors in here, and I wouldn't call this a neutral palette, the colors are a bit more muted and toned down, and that makes it a bit more work appropriate for me as well. Again, I've talked about this. I own my own business, so going to the office, I can wear whatever the hell I want to wear or just not wear any makeup at all and nobody's going to say anything. But part of my job is attending court as well, and that's a different ballgame. That is not about me. At the office, it's about me. At court, I'm there to represent somebody else, and it is something that I need to keep in mind. These are the kind of tones that I wouldn't feel self-conscious in. And while you can make very dramatic looks with this, especially with the inclusion of that matte black, there are also lighter tones in here to keep it more springy or summery, as the case may be. And frankly, looking at this color story and seeing just how versatile it is, not only in the color selection, but in the depth of shades, it doesn't surprise me that it was created by a makeup artist. And I'm just really excited about this palette, and I'm frankly really excited to see what else Lois Cosmetics puts out. I know they do have a few other palettes, and I am very tempted to purchase them because I've really enjoyed, granted, it's only been once, but I really enjoyed the experience of applying this eyeshadow. I just found that it was very easy to work with, and I really love the formula. I really do see myself getting a lot of use out of this palette, and I think that says something. When I have over 100 palettes and I'm already excited to use this one repeatedly, that says something. All right, and at this point, I feel I'm just repeating myself, so we're gonna wrap the video up here. I know this wasn't a thorough review, I know I didn't do multiple looks, but I did want to get my initial impressions out for you because they are going to be restocking, and I know there was a lot of interest in this palette. So hopefully the swatches and my initial impressions have helped you decide whether this is something that you want to add to your own collection. But for what it's worth, I love it, and I'm very excited to see what else Lois Cosmetics comes out with. All right, with all of that said, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.